Good morning and or afternoon, depending on when you're watching this. Welcome to your instructional video for today's assignment, Thursday, August 20th, 2020 for science. The purpose of this video is to go over the instructions for your final investigation plan and to give you an overview of today's activity where you are classifying matter as either a substance or a mixture. So let's talk about our investigation plan first. Yesterday, your task was to create a draft investigation plan, and there was a bit of confusion as to what exactly that looks like. And that's okay. I wanted you guys to struggle through that, but I bet once you see how we actually build this investigation plan, that you'll realize that it's actually pretty simple. Because if I were to see you in person and ask you these questions, you probably would be able to answer them with no problems at all. But when we see it on paper and when we're trying to translate it to science, sometimes things get a little messy. So your job, before you can actually answer the guiding question, before you can actually start collecting data, is to prepare a plan so that when you walk into the science lab or when you open your virtual lab, you know what to do. So this is what we do before we start any investigation so that you have all of the materials that you need, you know exactly what steps you're going to take in order to answer the guiding question. In this investigation, your task is to use what you know about classifying matter to design and carry out an investigation to determine the specific criteria, and what I mean by criteria is the characteristics special to each one that classifies a substance as an element or a compound. So really long task, but in short, that means I want you to find out in this investigation the characteristics that make a substance an element and the characteristics that make a substance a compound. So the materials that you're going to use for this investigation are models of elements and compounds and examples of elements and compounds. So first thing that you need to put in your plan is the guiding question for this investigation so that you remember the goal, the question that you need to be able to answer. So the question is not something you have to come up with on your own. It's already given to you. It's just something that you're putting in this document so that your plan is together. So the question for this investigation is what criteria classifies a substance as an element or a compound? So you can copy this exactly from, yes, I meant criteria. You can copy this exactly from your background reading or exactly from the introduction activity. The guiding question has already been put out there for you. So you're not coming up with your own, you're simply putting the one from this investigation in your plan. So now that you know what your guiding question is, now that you know what your goal is, you need to know what data do you need to collect in order to answer that question. So don't make this harder than it really is. If the question wants to know what characteristics make a substance an element, what characteristics make a substance a compound, then I need to look at those models and I need to look at those examples, and what do I need to write down? I need to write down what they look like. I need to describe them. And in science, we call those characteristics. When you describe what something looks like, the traits that it has, or make observations about it, you're describing the characteristics. So the data that you will collect in this investigation are the characteristics of elements and compounds. That's it. So some of you are making this super challenging, but if I want to know what elements and compounds look like, that's what I'm going to write down. What you write down, what you observe is your data. So I've got my guiding question. I've got my data. Now I need to decide how I'm going to do that. Now this is a pretty straightforward investigation, so you're not really going to have a lot of steps. Really, you can probably write your steps in two. If you need to know what elements and compounds look like in order to describe them, the first thing you have to do is you have to look at them. You have to observe the element and compound models. Step one, observe element and compound model. After you observe them, look over them, find some things that they have in common, you're going to record the characteristics. Another word for record is to write down. So you're going to write down the characteristics of elements and compounds. That's it. That's all we're doing for this investigation, because I'm literally trying to figure out what characteristics make an element, what characteristics make a compound. So to do that, I need to look at element and compound models and write down the characteristics of elements and compounds. So this investigation plan is pretty straightforward because we're only looking at two different things and we're describing them. Once you have completed your investigation plan, you can submit this assignment. Don't worry about the one from yesterday, the draft one. If you have not submitted that one, don't worry about that one. I know we had a lot of issues yesterday with technology. So all I'm looking for is your final investigation plan to be submitted, not your draft. This is one of two activities you have for today. The second activity that you have for today is to classify matter in an activity where you are given examples of substances and mixtures. So I want you to take about 1 minute, and I'm going to sit here silently while you look at the examples of substances and the examples of mixtures to find what substances have in common and to find what mixtures have in common. Ready? Go. About 20 more seconds. Let's talk about substances first. Last time we met, we described a substance as matter that has a composition that is always the same. So the atoms and molecules that make up a substance are in the same combination over and over and over again. Whether I have one atom or molecules, they always exist in the same combination over and over again. Even in the bottom left-hand corner where I have two different atoms, because they are chemically joined to make a molecule, and all of those molecules are the same, it's still considered a substance because they are joined together. But when I look at the mixture, I see a mixture is different substances that have blended or are mixed together and not chemically joined. So if you look in the bottom left-hand corner of the mixtures, I have a molecule of two blue atoms and a molecule of two red atoms, which are different, and they are blended in the same space. That represents a mixture. So your activity today is to look at images very similar to these and classify them as either a substance or a mixture. So you're looking at how those atoms and molecules are arranged. Is it the same atom over and over and over again? Or does it have two or more different atoms that are blended in the same space? Ask yourself those questions to decide whether you're looking at a substance or a mixture. So in all today, you have two activities that you need to submit. One of them is the final investigation plan, and the other one is the substance or mixture practice. So we just did the final investigation plan together. So go into your final investigation plan and type the guiding questions, data, and steps that you will take and submit that. Then open up the substance or mixture practice and complete that. Once you've completed those two assignments, you are done with your work for today. You may want to go back and make sure that you have assignments completed from earlier this week and last. But do remember, the draft investigation plan is not required because of the problems that we had yesterday. So thank you for your patience in dealing with the technology issues that we will definitely inevitably have in this crazy journey of online learning. I look forward to seeing you guys in person at school tomorrow. If not, you will have a virtual lab online. So please feel free to reach out if you have any questions, and I hope to see you soon.